Yeah, Flannel did too. All right, so let's talk Ezra. So Ezra, for those of you who don't know, is the new star character that is coming to the game. Can buff and shield allies and debuff enemies using special mushrooms he can grow during battle. He also supports characters who use Eureka by applying additional stacks of the buff, and he has the ability to restore Moxie for the whole team via his ultimate. So as you guys knew, we were talking about shield characters, and I was saying for Ezra to be a character that people are gonna want to get, I was like they're gonna have to make his kit pretty bloated, for people to want him. I said it on the podcast. I said it on my stream before the podcast, and they did just that. They bloated the out of his kit. So let's talk about it. Skill 1, a max attack. Caster loses HP, deals mental damage and Genesis damage to 2 enemies. Both can crit. Plants, honey fungus, max 2. So now he is a shielder that has a kit similar to 37. So now we can make a Genesis team, guys. We're literally able to make Genesis teams with stars. So not only does star characters have crit, they now have Genesis damage that can also crit. So star is kind of ridiculous right now. Honey fungus at the start of the turn grows 1 time, matures, and after an amount of growth, inflicts fragile on all enemies. Fragile, when attacked, the carrier takes additional damage. So now you can put these debuffs on the enemies that allow them to take additional damage, while also doing Genesis damage as well. Skill 2, mass buff. Caster loses HP. Gives all allies a shield, which we don't know the values of how big that shield is. And then we get a new fungus, Ghost Fungus. Ghost Fungus at the start of the round grows 1 time, matures, and after a number of growth, applies Clarity to all allies. Clarity increases crit damage. So the character can give a shield and then also crit damage to allies. Ultimate, mass buff. Grants Moxie and Eureka to all allies. Plants the maximum amount of honey fungus possible and matures all mushrooms, triggering their effects immediately. So with using your skills, you apply the fungus to the enemies. Then you ult and you give everybody Moxie and you give everyone Eureka. And then you trigger all those plants and all of those buffs or debuffs will happen. Crazy, right? Because once we see the value of that Eureka and Moxie given, yeah, it's going to be a little much. So insights. Upon entering combat or using ultimates, Ezra gains +1 Eureka. So he wants to be with characters that use their ultimates a lot to help give Eureka, right? So 37 gets more stacks of Eureka by follow-up. 6 gets more stacks by the amount of buffs that you have on your characters by having 4 or more. And Ezra gets more Eureka by just doing ultimates, right? When using incantations, if the maximum amount of the corresponding mushroom is planted, consume Eureka and grow that mushroom 1 time. If the mushroom matures, immediately trigger its effects. So to be able to mature your mushrooms and grow, you need to build up your Eureka stacks with the character. Reduces damage taken on his 2nd insight. And then on his 3rd, when a round ends, Ezra recovers HP according to the amount of mushrooms present on the field. This can crit. Meaning, I'm guessing it does some type of damage or something like that. No, the heal, I'm guessing, can crit. That he does. When using incantations, the maximum amount of mushrooms are not... Yeah, okay, so when using incantations, if the maximum amount of mushrooms are not corresponding to the incantation, gain Moxie. I'm not sure exactly where that is. Probably because they're... I'm not sure exactly what that's saying, but it's probably a translation error. So, look at the skill animations. They showed these on Twitter, so you've seen those, but it looks really cool. And that's a shield. And then we know the ult. So, yeah, let's talk about it. Let's see The walking tank full of utility. Bit of foreshadowing. Ezra and Flame are pretty good. Lucky Lux, did they just power creep my girl Voyager and made Star? Wait, saving the slot if I have him. Sustain support. Brazilian turn-based games could be equivalent to do inflatus damage. Crit damage is very strong. There's no limit to it, and Lily benefits. I might pull 37 now with Ezra. Yeah, Lilia and Mushroom Boy are eaten. 37 Regulus or Lilia. Tooth Fairy, Ezra sound good. Bit of foreshadowing could, because you love Spathadia. You're gonna love Flannel. I just read her. Yeah. Thank you, Tinley. I'll look at her, but I kind of figured if it isn't a TL error, it means you cast skill 1 and a mushroom skill 2 is present. You gain Moxie. Okay, because I wasn't sure. Is the Green Lake story level scaled? I just got my character's insight 30 and require levels insight 15. No, the Green Lake story doesn't really like. I haven't really looked at the level scaling, but like for most of us who played in like the beginning of the game, like most of the event stages were kind of like easy. Seems a little synergistic with Tooth Fairy, or am I misunderstanding things? Well, okay, so like the character, so like all in all, let's see what the character does, right? He gets crit damage to my. I'm going to assume he'll give. Hold on, let me get my phone. Okay. He's probably going to give 30% crit damage. Because it just seems like a right amount. It could be 20. I don't think it would be 15. It's going to be somewhere between 20 and 30%. But that also feels really strong for a free buff. So I could be absolutely wrong. But if the crit damage is like the same or less than Tooth Fairy, then like nah, like some people could see as a reason to like, oh, okay, right? But like the crit damage is not really what I'm worried about. Well, not worried about. Is not really what I'm excited about. What I'm excited about is the Moxie and Eureka that you give to all allies. The Moxie that you can because like this makes him more than just a Eureka support. He becomes a support for more characters. Think about the characters that you have that you want to give ult to. Think about the characters that you have like A Knight, Spathadia, Melania, like so many characters that want Moxie. This is a big help to them. Even if you're a character who doesn't do crit damage, getting Moxie is huge. Because like the Necro Door team is literally providing Moxie to your like character. So like this is the part that I'm really excited to be about. So he's basically a support. Wish he was a DPS if I'm honest. I wasn't gonna see him being a DPS, like really. I just knew he wasn't gonna be a healer. I was kind of guessing he'd be a support, if anything. Because remember, since Spathadia was released as a DPS, they did not release 2 DPS in 2 patches. They have proved this now 5 patches in a row that they will not release 2 DPSs. They release a DPS and a healer or a support. But yes, we said it last stream. Supports run this game. Supports are absolutely bonkers in this game. Yeah, it won't collide with Tooth Fairy. It will not because it's a buff to allies. So like it's interesting because crit characters just got DPSs are patch reliant, but supports are forever. Yeah, crit characters just got a big boost, but not only crit characters. Just kind of anybody, because like it makes it to where like now with having a Tooth Fairy, expect like now it makes more sense why Tooth Fairy might be on the banner. Of course, it's a money reason, but like Tooth Fairy with her, like it makes more of a reason to use a Tooth Fairy because now if you can help those non-crit characters guarantee crit, and then you can give them a buff for crit damage, and then apply a debuff to enemies that help enable like more like crits and like hit harder on like crit, like that's insane. And it is slightly concerning because they're giving a lot of love to crit. They're giving a lot of love to crit. And I want to see more love for a non-crit because with Ezra, crit meta like will be a thing for this time until we see what's in 1.6. Like now that they replaced, like now that Spathadia and Ezra are both crit characters, 1.6 I hope is not crit characters because like this is ridiculous, bro. Like it is concerning that crit, like this is a huge buff to crit, huge buff.